Hey guys, I am back. I want to introduce you to dividing decimals by decimals. That means both your dividend and divisor are going to have decimals in them, and we need to talk about what that means. So the same rules that we've been talking about still apply. If you're going to do it to one number, you've got to do it to both of them. All right, we've got to be fair. And that divisor, when we are ready to go, we want to divide. This divisor cannot have a decimal in it. This one can have a decimal in it. We're fine with that. We don't care. But that divisor cannot have a decimal, all right? So I'm going to show you two examples today that are going to look a little different, each one. And I'm going to go through it kind of quickly because you guys can rewatch the video if you want. But I want to show you what this is going to look like. And I think that you're going to find that it looks very similar to what we've been doing, all right? So we are going to write this in fraction form, 8 5/10 over 3 4/10. In order to make this an equivalent decimal, I need to get rid of this down here, which means I need to move one place. So I need to multiply by 10, which would give me 34. And I know I must do the same thing up here. Multiply by 10 is going to give me 85. All right, because both of these had the same place value behind the decimal, when we got rid of the decimal in our divisor, we ended up getting rid of the decimal in the dividend, even though technically we can have decimals in our dividend. So now, when you get to this point, we just get to do our good old long division. So we are doing 85 divided by 34. All right, team members, I'm just thinking in my head, 34, well, I know that 35 plus 35 is 70. That's pretty darn close. I'm going to jump in with 2. 34 can't fit into 8, obviously, so I'm skipping that one. And I'm going to 85, and I'm going to say it's probably going to fit in about 2 times. 2 times 34 is going to be 68. Do some subtraction. And we are going to get, I guess I should show my work here, 7, 15, 7, 1, 17. Now, just like we've done before, if we need some help here, because this 34 cannot fit into 17, we need to create an equivalent decimal. And like always, we need to pop that decimal right up. We need to bump it up to the quotient. Extend this a little bit and give myself an equivalent decimal there with that 0. Now I can say how many times can 34 fit into 170. Well, we just thought in our head about 34 fitting into 70, but this is a little different. I'm going to think about 34, I'm just estimating in my head, is about 30. 30 times 5 would be 150. I know that because 3 times 5 is 15. And 30 multiplied by 6 would then be 180. So I'm going to guess 5. If I had, I guess I could check my work right here. 34 multiplied by 5, and that's going to be 20. Carry the 2. That's going to be 15 plus 2, 17. Perfect. Alrighty. Gotta be good, role model. No guessing over here. I'm checking my work, I promise. All right, we subtract. We have nothing left. We hit that decimal. We've got it where it needs to be. Now we know that our quotient is going to be 2 5/10. All right, team members, that's what it's going to look like when you have the same place value behind the decimal in both of your numbers there, your dividend and your divisor. I want to show you what it looks like when that's not the case. Again, I'm going to keep it quick. Get rid of this stuff, and we're going to move on. Thanks, guys. I appreciate you sticking with me. Let's look at this one. Oh, that's not going to do it. 9 1/100th divided by 1 7/10. All right, this is going to be equal to, this is going to be equal to a fraction that looks like 9 1/10 as the, or 100th as the numerator, and 1 7/10 as the denominator. And we're going to be able to use this to write an equivalent fraction and ultimately an equivalent division problem. So I know that the most important thing is to get rid of this right here. I've got to move that decimal one place. So that means I'm going to be multiplying by 10. That's going to give me 17 as my denominator. I know I've got to do the same thing up here, multiply by 10. Now, when I multiply by 10, I'm going to move my decimal one place. That's going to give me 90. I'm still going to have a decimal in my dividend, and that is fine. We can have decimals in our dividend. You guys know that. You've done it before. It should be familiar from last week, so it's awesome. So ultimately, this means that this is going to have the exact same value as 90 and 1/10 divided by 17. All right, they are exactly the same. So let's do some quick division and just see what that's going to end up looking like. All righty, pop it right here. 90 and 1/10 divided by 17. So 17 right away cannot fit into 9. That's a big old goose egg, a 0 right there. But 17 can definitely fit into 90. 17 is pretty close to 20, so I think in my head, well, gosh, I can fit 4 20s in 90. Let's just check that. 17 multiplied by 4, that's going to be 28. Carry the 2, that's going to be 6. Or 4 plus 2 is 6. 68 is pretty close to 90, but I wonder if I can fit another 17 in there. Remember, multiplication is that groups of 17 there. So I had 4 groups of 17. I'm not sure it was enough. Instead of multiplying by 5, I'm just going to see what happens if I add one more group of 17. 15. That would be 85. 85 is super close to 90. It wasn't 4 groups of 15, but when I put one more in there, it was 5 groups of 15 that gave me 85. So let's subtract. That's going to be 5, and I'm going to drop the 1, drop it down. But before I move on, I also want to make sure that I bump this decimal right up in that same place value. All right, that is a super, super big deal. That's the main thing here. Remember, we need to bump that decimal up, okay? It's got to go in the same line, all right? We've got to line all these pieces up. So, fantastic. We just have a little bit more to do. We need to figure out how many times 17 can go into 51. Well, I know in my head I can kind of do a little math. 17 plus 17 is going to be 34. It seems like maybe I can fit one more in there. Let's get that out of the way, and let's just check it. 17 multiplied by 3, 1, 2, that's 21. 3 plus 2 is 51. There we go. 3 times that equals 51, and nothing left over. And so this is an example, guys. I hope that what you saw here today was really, really familiar. I want it to look like a mix of the two things that we practiced before. All right? Notice that I'm using that equivalent decimal strategy. Notice that I'm using long division. And if you're really listening to the words that I was saying as I solved this problem, you probably heard me do a lot of estimating just in my head. 17 was close to 20. Before that, I was saying that we could fit about 5 30s into 170, right? That was all just estimating to make my job a little bit easier so I didn't have to do quite as much of this guess and check work, right? So these 3 strategies that we've been practicing the past few weeks, they all come together to help you be successful with dividing decimals by decimals. All right, guys, today's the very first day of it, so if this feels hard, that's okay. You've got plenty of time. We're going to work on this for a while, but I also want you to know that these things that we're doing, even if they feel overwhelming, you have done it before. You've been doing all these little pieces on their own, and now we're just putting them together. So even if it takes a little bit of time, you're going to be amazing. You're going to get it, and go have fun. You guys know how much I love math. I know you guys are just as excited as I am to get cracking at these problems. So, love you guys.